Hello, and welcome to The Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. Y'all, happy 4th of July for those of you who are tuning in today. I'm kind of reflecting on peace and freedom this morning. We have the conversation around, do you really want peace? Yet, because today is the 4th of July here in the States, I'm thinking about the tie-in of freedom with peace. And really, it's funny, the fruit of freedom, true inner freedom, is peace. And there's this concept of you will know a tree by its fruit. And if we are walking in the light, if we're walking in the truth, we thus are walking in freedom. And as a result of that, we are promised a whole set of fruits of effectively that spirit of freedom, which include love and joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so if we are not having those fruits show up in our life, it warrants the question of, am I actually walking in freedom to begin with? Am I free? Am I actually acknowledging the truth and looking in the mirror, doing the work to know the reality of what is? Here on the Knowing Show, we talk about the cultivation of the four inner intelligences. It's all about cultivating who we are. And especially, I was on a podcast the other day as a guest, especially as we are all so focused on artificial intelligence, which is the external, and that which is effectively, it's not human to human. It's not engaging with reality, like the true hard facts of skin to skin. I'm contacting the world. It's all very digital, at least for right now. And there's a question that I think that it's really important that we consider over, have I done the work to have these layers removed in me to be able to confront the reality of the truth in myself and also in the world around me? I mentioned a couple days ago that there's been some really devastating accusations and lies, and it's been weird. There's been a real attack um, on reputation for my darling and me, and it's been really sad to see. And at the same time, I just am watching the truth, the experience. There's a difference between someone's experience and the reality of the kind of overarching truth of what is, versus this is my experience and I'm calling it the truth. There's a big difference there. So if I am taking one minute aspect of what actually happened, a fact, but I'm twisting it and entwining it with my experience, well, now truth becomes very, very shadowed, because we're not actually delineating between experience and truth and reality. And so as we're looking at this question of, do I really want peace? So often it comes back to this question of, am I willing to know the truth and differentiate it from my experience? Because here's the thing, when we do that, those arguments that we were so strongly holding to will tend to fall not as strong. They might not fall flat completely, but they're not going to hold the same kind of foundation that we initially thought that they did, because the reality of what is our experience versus what is the actual truth, it does not invalidate our experience to say, well, it's not necessarily fact, it's not objective, yet it's still important. So to bolster our experience and to try to add more grounding to it, we will intertwine the reality of the truth in it. But then it gets cloudy and people don't actually know the difference between their experience and the truth, the objective reality of the facts. And so to recognize, I can sit in my own experience without pulling the truth in. I can sit in my experience and recognize I feel this way. This objective reality of what happened impacted me in this way. And I can hold to that and be confident in my experience enough that I don't need to change the objective reality. And y'all, when we start to do that, that allows for us to start walking in freedom, because we know the difference between the truth and our experience. And the result of that is the fruit of the spirit of freedom, which is love and joy and peace, among others. So do we really want peace? Are we willing to do the work to delineate between my experience and the truth, so that I can be confident in, yeah, this is what I felt, this is what I experienced, and this is the power of that. So often when we talk about our four intelligences, it's the intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, spiritual and physical intelligence. Each one of these play a significant part in our own experience with the world. Yet when we are intellectually looking at the facts of the truth, that's engaging the left hemisphere of the brain. We're looking objectively, seeking to be objective as much as possible at the facts. It's like going into the court of law, and you're standing among the judge and jury, and your job as the lawyer is to state the facts, and then people have the opportunity to come and state their experience. Very different type of, this is my personal testimony. I am a witness. I experienced this, versus here we're all going to look as a third party objectively to what happened over here. So the more we're actually able to understand our intellect, our mind, our emotions, our soul, our spirit, and our physical body, then we can start to actually look at an event and have that objective experience, but then also have the emotional experience as well. We can then start to become whole-bodied in the way that we engage with the world, because our intellect can look at the facts, but our emotions can look at our experience. And then it's kind of like, then we ourselves, when we're totally aligned and we've got all of our parts activated, it's like the board of directors. Each intelligence has data to tell us. And so when I am activating each one and turning each one online, then each intelligence can come and tell me what it knows. And then it is the responsibility of you and I, our core kind of inner self, like who we were created to be in the first place. Then we make the decision, but we're tuning into each intelligence. And we're doing so knowing the truth and the experience. We're delineating between them. And then we're free. We're not trying to blend the two or convolute the two or change the hard facts of the truth to kind of bolster my experience, because I can be confident that, yeah, that's how I feel as a result of that. I feel betrayed. Maybe they actually did not betray us, but we feel betrayed. And it was interesting. I was talking with, sorry, my contact is hurting me. I was talking with a CEO of a company the other week who's a client of mine, and they were sharing how there was an instance where they felt betrayed. And, it was interesting that he felt betrayed in his experience. That wasn't the objective truth. And so then we sat with the other person's experience as well as we could. He was about to go and have some mediation, but he was sitting in his experience feeling betrayed. Then he told me the objective truth. And then it was like, well, let's look at his experience and what could be his reality and his experience. And so as we talked about what could be his experience, then all of a sudden, all this color came in. When we're only looking at the hard facts, it's very black and white. But then when you add an experience, now there's a ton of color. Now there's gray. Now there's nuance. Now there's dynamicism over, how could, these two things that seem very opposing experiences be true, or both be, I guess you could say, like little t truth. So there's like the capital T truth of the objective reality of the hard facts. And then there's the little t truths of, well, that was my experience. And frankly, with the way I'm feeling right now, I feel it so strongly, it has to be real. It is, to an extent. And until we learn to differentiate and really afford honor to the capital T truth and the little t truth of our experience, it's going to be impossible for us to know the truth of our own experience, know the objective truth, and then, God willing, go and sit in their experience of their little t truth. Y'all, that's so important for empathy. That's so important for communication and healthy relationships. And it's so important for peace. But the question is, do you really want peace, or do you want to be right? And are we willing to effectively pay the price for peace by way of doing the work to understand and separate the capital T truth of the reality of what happened from the little t truth of my experience? Because to be honest, it gets really murky, and it takes time, and it takes, what it is? We really do. We have to be willing to not be quote unquote right. That's kind of the humility of setting aside ego to even understand, because a lot of times ego clouds our ability to even get to our own vulnerability. We're not even able to access the capital, like little t truth of my experience, because ego is trying to protect us from feeling the pain of our experience in the first place. So when humility comes into the picture and we're actually allowing for humility to replace ego, we then access vulnerability. And then we know, oh man, like I'm really feeling hurt by what you said or did. And maybe that aspect of I'm feeling pain or I'm feeling embarrassed. Embarrassment is a hard one. When we're starting to feel kind of those inner negative emotions, ego comes to the rescue and points a finger. It also clouds our ability to access the capital T truth of what objectively happened. And it's really trying to prevent us from really seeing ourselves in the first place. But if we're willing to pay the price of looking in the mirror and experiencing the pain of self-realization, whether it's realizing the part that we played in it, whether it's recognizing and acknowledging our own pain, then we're able to come alongside them in their experience. And we're also able to welcome them to come alongside ours. We cannot know our own experience apart from replacing ego with humility. Before we keep going, we do have a lesson for today in A Course in Miracles that we'll dive into, but I want to jump over into the chat. Good morning, friends. Brian, I'm so grateful you're here. He says, be respectful in the chat. Any and all negative comments will be removed. Repeat again, you will be timed out. Third time will get you banned from the channel. Thank you, Brian. I'm so grateful. Goose Hunter, good morning. So glad to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Lisa, good morning. M. Ronson, hello. I'm glad to see you. Saint Sanic, happy 4th of July. Good morning, Constantine. M. Ronan, I do remember you. I feel like you've been here for trivia, right? For those of you who are new to the show, we'll play trivia on the first Wednesday of every month. So I'm glad to see you. Dr. Rockanas, hello. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Mr. Mike says, we are all the sum of our pasts. Everyone is exactly where they are supposed to be. So good. Ah, man, that takes a real faith to actually believe that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Man, that's a whole show. Renee, good morning. The 4 intelligences are intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical intelligences. The intellect is the mind. And that's the thing, frankly, that we've been cultivating since we were children. It's the very thing that our culture, for the most part, has, and Western culture primarily, but I know that I'm sure it extends into other parts of the world, has placed so much value on the cultivation of the IQ. And then we've got the emotional intelligence, which is more so the right hemisphere of the mind. It's the heart, or I'm sorry, it's the soul. And then we've got the spirit, which is effectively our pathway to God. It's the way we hear God, and that we have things revealed to us and we all know what this is like when we're like, I don't know how I know that, but I do. That's what I consider to be spirit. And then finally, physical intelligence. That's literally our body storing and remembering parts of the past. To your point, Mr. Mike, our body remembers, our body stores data. It collects memories of the past, especially ones that we haven't worked through. And so when we think about our little t experiences, so often it's because of the little t truth of our experiences, because of the little t traumas in our past. We all know that the capital T traumas, the big moments of death or loss or abuse, need to be tended to. Of course, that's going to impact us. But what we don't recognize is that those little T trauma moments, it's like the water dripping that finally creates erosion in our soul. That little T moment, man, those can really define us. They define our belief systems. They define our narratives about ourselves. So to Mr. Mike's point, we are all the sum of our past. Our body keeps the score. Our spirit can get really, really broken. Our soul can become corroded over. And our mind can actually become our greatest defense mechanism to protect us. Remember, ego, it can protect us from even accessing the vulnerability of what's really going on inside of us to begin with. India, good morning. Joseph Leon, good morning. I'm glad to see you. Carlo, good morning. Samaus, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Door Girl, good morning. Chris Cross, good morning. Scorpion, Emotional intelligence is highly rare these days. It's so true. Somebody asked me, I was on a podcast the other day and they said, what's the number one thing that entrepreneurs, and it was a business podcast, but they were like, what's the number one thing that entrepreneurs should view as their greatest differentiator heading into this world of AI? And it was cultivate your EQ, cultivate your emotional health. Nobody can take that away from you. And jobs can be taken away, but nobody can take away that. And that is going to be the greatest thing that sets us apart from these agents, from the ability to, can I actually enter into emotional relationships, high stress environments with customers, with a team? Can I maintain peace as a result of everybody freaking out? Am I someone that can be trusted with someone else's emotions because I have done the work to regulate and understand my own? The definition of emotional intelligence is first the ability to be aware of one's own emotions, and then to understand, to control and convey. And then on the other side of that, it's the ability to handle interpersonal relationships with wisdom and with empathy. We cannot engage with empathy until we have done the work to know ourselves. This is where we're talking about of, if I am brave enough to sit and delineate between my own experience versus the capital T, reality truth of what actually happened, in so doing, in removing ego and looking in the mirror, then we know that the freedom that comes from, wow, I didn't realize that the past really was showing up right now. The past is making its appearance, and my present has been so corroded by what happened in the past. I thought I was really pissed off at you, when in reality, man, I'm really healing from something that happened to me at 10 years old. And then it becomes, actually, this is crazy. Thank you for helping me know that. Thank you for helping me look in the mirror and come to know myself better, and maybe even heal from that time in the past. I was talking with a friend last night, and we were talking about how so often our partners are the ones that can really make us most mad, because it's like they know us well enough, but also they're just so close. It's like you're living on top of each other, and you're experiencing the world in such a visceral way where they see all the parts of us if we're allowing them to. But my therapist said this years ago. She said, the sign of us reacting to our partner actually is a sign that we're feeling safe enough to have those parts of us activated and triggered so that then they can be healed. Things come up in us when they're ready to be healed. I had a friend of mine, it was devastating. She had been in counseling for about 3 years. And finally, 3 years in, she all of a sudden had a flashback to when she was 9 years old and she was raped by her father. And she didn't remember for her whole 27 years of life. She did not remember that happening because, again, with ego keeping us safe, there's parts of us that are really working hard to prevent us from accessing the pain of the past. But once we start finding safety with another person, these memories start to come up. And ideally, the goal is that we find safety with ourselves. Then we're proving to our body, to our emotions, to our mind, to our spirit, you're a safe place. You're in a safe container where those things that you've been suppressing for so many years can actually come and see the light of day. I'm going to take care of you. And this person that I have in relationship with, whether it is my partner or it's a counselor or just maybe a coach, we're going to process that with them because they have proven to be safe. So it's actually a sign of safety when these parts of us come out that have been hidden for so long. And, there's different, of course, it's not black and white. It's not always a sign that we're feeling safe, but for a large degree, it's kind of a positive compliment in some way when we do find somebody to be safe with, to open up with and kind of unveil ourselves with. Just jumping over to the chat. Miss Radon, good morning. Brian, Meter, I'm sure you guys have seen Brian's comment that we do put people on timeout who are saying inappropriate things, and then they will get banned otherwise. But I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining. Hotspot, good morning. My Lyrical, good morning. Nate, good morning. Thank you for joining. Ravs, good morning. Do not fear who can destroy the body, but fear the one who can throw your soul into eternal fire. Texas, born and raised. Howdy, good morning. Aman, good morning. Good to see you. Crypto, good morning. Chris, good morning. All right, y'all, I'm going to jump over to the lesson for today, A Course in Miracles. I started reading this in January because I wanted to be reading it for myself, and I figured this was good accountability to be reading it on the show. So we're just going to read through the lesson, and then we'll keep chatting. Lesson 185, I want the peace of God. To say these words is nothing, but to mean these words is everything. If you could but mean them for just an instant, there would be no sorrow possible for you in any form, in any place or time. Heaven would be completely given back to full awareness, memory of God entirely restored, and the resurrection of all creation fully recognized. No one can mean these words and not be healed. He cannot play with dreams nor think he is himself a dream. He cannot make a hell or think it's real. He wants the peace of God, and it is given to him. For that is all he wants, and that is all he will receive. Many have said these words, but few indeed have meant them. You have but to look upon the world you see around you to be sure how very few there are. The world would be completely changed should any two agree these words express the only thing that they want. Two minds with one intent become so strong that what they will becomes the will of God. For minds can only join in truth. In dreams, no two can share the same intent. To each, the hero of the dream is different. The outcome wanted, not the same for both. Loser and gainer merely shift about in changing patterns as the ratio of gain to loss and loss to gain takes on a different aspect or another form. Yet compromise alone a dream can bring. Sometimes it takes the form of union, and only the form. The meaning must escape the dream, for compromising is the goal of dreaming. Minds cannot unite in dreams. They merely bargain. And what bargain can give them the peace of God? Illusions come to take his place, and what he means is lost to sleeping minds intent on compromise, each to his gain and to another's loss. To mean you want the peace of God is to renounce all dreams, for no one means these words who wants illusions, and who therefore seeks the means which bring illusions. He has looked on them and found them wanting. Now he seeks to go beyond them, and recognizing that another dream would offer nothing more than all the others. Dreams are one to him, and he has learned their only difference is one of form. For one will bring the same despair and misery as do the rest. The mind which means that all it wants is peace must join with other minds, for that is how peace is obtained. And when the wish for peace is genuine, the means for finding it is given in a form each mind that is planned for him, in a form that each mind that seeks it in honesty can understand. Whatever form the lesson takes is planned for him in such a way that he cannot mistake it. For if his asking is sincere, but if he asks without sincerity, there is no form in which the lesson will meet with acceptance and be truly learned. Let us today devote our practicing to recognizing that we really mean the words we say. We want the peace of God. This is no idle wish. These words do not request another dream be given us. They do not ask for compromise, nor try to make another bargain in the hope that there may yet be one that can succeed where all the rest have failed. To mean these words acknowledges illusions are in vain, requesting the eternal in the place of shifting dreams, which seem to change in all they offer, but are one in nothingness. Today, devote your practice periods to carefully searching your mind to find the dreams you cherish still. What do you ask for in your heart? Forget the words you use in making your requests. Consider but what you believe will comfort you and bring you happiness. But be you not dismayed by lingering illusions, for their form is not what matters now. Let not some dreams be more acceptable, reserving shame and secrecy for others. They are one, and being one question should be asked of all of them. Is this what I would have in place of heaven and the peace of God? This is the choice you make. Be not deceived that it is otherwise. No compromise is possible in this. You choose God's peace, or you have asked for dreams, and dreams will come as you requested them. Yet will God's peace come just as certainly, and to remain with you forever. It will not be gone with every twist and turning of the road, to reappear unrecognized in forms which shift and change with every step you take. You want the peace of God, and so do all who seem to seek their dreams. For them, as well as for yourself, you ask but this when you make this request with deep sincerity. For thus you reach to what they really want and join your own intent with what they seek above all things, perhaps unknown to them, but sure to you. You have been weak at times, uncertain in your purpose, and unsure of what you wanted, where to look for it, where to turn for help in the attempt. Help has been given you, and would you not avail yourself to it by sharing it? No one who truly seeks the peace of God can fail to find it, for he merely asks what he deceives himself, no longer by denying to himself what is God's will. Who can remain unsatisfied? Who asks for what he already has? Who could be unanswered? Who requests an answer which is his to give? The peace of God is yours. For you was peace created, given you by its creator, and established as his own eternal gift. How can you fail when you ask but for what he wills for you? And how could your request be limited to you alone? No gift of God can be unshared. It is this attribute that sets the gifts of God apart from every dream that ever seemed to take the place of truth. No one can lose, and everyone must gain whenever any gift of God has been requested and received by anyone. God gives, but to unite. To take away is meaningless to him. And when it is as meaningless to you, you can be sure you share one will with him and he with you. And you will also know you share one will with all your brothers, whose intent is yours. It is this one intent we seek today, uniting our desires with the need of every heart, the call of every mind, and the hope that lies beyond despair. The love attack would hide, the brotherhood that hate has sought to sever, but which still remains as God created it. With help like this beside us, can we fail today as we request the peace of God be given to us? One of the things that's just such a resounding reality. So we talk about the capital T truth of like what's the reality above all else, what's the facts. The reality is that the peace of God is ours, but our experience may not reflect that. And y'all, this is true for every single bit of our inheritance as sons and daughters of our Creator. Everyone who is made like our Creator has access to the qualities and attributes of Him. Every son and daughter has access to the inheritance of their Father. And so we have the reality, it's kind of like the demarcating line between what is the capital T truth of reality versus our experience. And this is, we have to know what is ours. We talked about this at the beginning, where the fruit of the spirit of freedom, talk about 4th of July here in the States, the result of freedom is effectively 9 fruits of the spirit of it. It's love and joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. At all times, we have access to this. We have access to the capital T truth of the reality, should we so choose to walk in it. So sometimes we actually need to get up out of our experience and step into the what is more true, what is more real. I gave this example the other day while I was on a podcast. Sorry, my contact has been bothering me this morning. I think I need new lenses. But I gave this example the other day where a couple years ago, I had this moment actually with a parent of mine, and I love them both to the moon. But one of them looked at me in a certain way, and it was like I was thrown back to being 8 years old again. And I just immediately felt small, and I immediately was embarrassed, and I felt kind of afraid. All it was a look, and it took me back talk about how the past still impacts us if we haven't healed from it. And so I was taken back, and I was just starting to kind of do this work, so much of the work that we talk about here on the show. And so what I did was I took myself on a walk, and I sat down and I wrote out how I was feeling, because I've learned over the years that what I need to do the second I start feeling upset, or whether I'm anxious, or I feel just discomfort in my body, like my stomach starts feeling super tight or uncomfortable, my chest starts tightening, my throat, our physical body stores data, and that is usually the first indicator that something's not right. And then our emotions kind of reveal themselves as well. So I went and I excused myself and I sat down and I just journaled. Why am I feeling this way? So kind of my 3-step process when I start feeling uncomfortable like that is to slow down. So I actually remove distractions, and then I lean into the emotion. Like, instead of suppressing it or running away from it, which was my default for 30 years, I really started to lean into it. And then I would ask why of that emotion, or what my body is experiencing. I'm like, okay, I know you've got data. Why is it there? What's the root cause? What's the origin story of this emotion? Because nothing can be triggered inside of us that wasn't already there to begin with. So that look triggered something in me, and that thing was already there. So I sat down and I just wrote out, I asked why. And, I realized, I used to have that relationship with that parent when I was a kid, where they would look at me sometimes or get angry at me sometimes because I was very big and loud as a child. And not always, but sometimes they would lose their temper, as parents do. And it was, interesting to have that kind of 8-year-old come out. But when that happened, I leaned into the emotion. And what I also did, so I leaned into my experience and also leaned into the capital T truth of what's the greater reality. The greater reality is that it had been probably 20 years since they had looked at me like that. So while I'm sitting in my experience of that little 8-year-old coming out and saying, hey, like, I'm remembering this, like I'm being thrown back to the past. So as I listen to this 8-year-old little girl coming out, and I sit in her experience of what that felt like all those years when she was a little girl, of having those emotions and those experiences, I also, after kind of listening, but then it's also a reorientation to, okay, I'm going to listen to the past. Now I'm going to reorient to the truth of what is right now. Yes, they looked at me that way, and I am so loved by this person, and I love them. We actually have the most wonderful relationship. We're super, super close. So this is emotional maturity, y'all, in the truest sense, to acknowledge the reality of the little t truth of my experience. Yeah, that's real. I'm feeling this way. But then to acknowledge the capital T truth of reality of what is more true. Well, what's more true is that I've got 20 years of data of good, strong relationship with this person, even though I had a few years worth of data in childhood that they would be reactive and they would get angry sometimes. Well, what am I gonna walk away with? What am I actually going to adhere to? And y'all, this is really important, because we need to ask the question of what then? How then will I live? And that's actually kind of the premise for my book, of knowing of, okay, I'm going to go look in the mirror. I'm going to acknowledge the reality of what was and what is. Well, how then shall I live? And this really comes to what I call the knowing framework. And it's, okay, acknowledging the past. Who was I? What happened? Acknowledging the reality of the present moment. Okay, well, who am I today? How does the past show up in the present moment? All right, but then what am I going to choose? Who do I want to be tomorrow? So to this whole point, I want the peace of God. Well, do we want peace? Do we actually want to know the truth of the past, how it shows up in the present, so that we can experience freedom and walk in something new? We have to be willing to know the current state of things. It's like the state of the union. What's going on? I went to this association event the largest cleaning association event. So it was all janitors and industrial kind of businesses that work on commercial facilities. So I went to this event, and they started out the entire conference with what they called the State of the Union. What is going on right here, right now? Why is that? They look back. And then the rest of the sessions was all looking ahead. That is exactly what we need to do. We need to get a state of what's going on inside of us, and understanding the reality of what's going on internally to then be able to say, okay, well, I want to change that. I actually want to keep that quality or that attribute, but I want to change this one because it's not serving me anymore. I'm just going to jump down in the chat. Ronnie, hello. Oh, I'm so glad. It says I'm getting ready to be in the 4th parade. How fun. Oh my gosh. I love that. That's so cool. I've never been in a 4th of July parade. Kids, Stardust, hello. Thanks for joining. Composite Square, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. I love that verse. Safina, good morning. Gary, good morning. Saul, John Evans, Joseph Leon, hello. Goose Adam says, is the process of comparing the accruals of the past and events of the present the best lesson for preparing us for an unexpected and unknown future? I love this. Brilliant question. And I love that you said accruals of the past. It's interesting. I think that we have compounding interest. Everything that we have not dealt with compounds, and it actually becomes bigger, and it all of a sudden becomes this, like, what was a small spark, and then all of a sudden it becomes this burning flame because we never addressed it back in the past. And so as we're looking, and y'all, I have now, it's not just the past of being a kid. The past is 5 seconds ago. The past is 10 minutes ago, 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago. What has been left unaddressed? I in real time, this was like last week, in real time, I had something happen where I was like, is this going to become something that I need to address later on? Do I need to address this right now? Is this another line item of stacking reasons for why someone's being unfair, or I can't trust this person? Is this yet another reason? So are we silently building cases against people? Are we silently building walls? Are we quietly kind of separating ourselves from connection and community from someone or a group of people because we're building up these unprocessed experiences right here in real time? I like to think of these unprocessed experience and unprocessed emotions as kind of a brick. And over time, brick by brick by brick, our wall grows that divides us from relationship. But it's not just relationship with other people. It's also relationship with ourselves, because we're not doing the work to process it. So we actually get further and further away. The past is like distance traveled in some ways, of like, we're getting further away from the actual factual reality of what happened. So that now all remains in my mind and my recollection is my own experience. So it is so much better to deal with something right here and now for the purpose of the truth. Kikara, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Patrick, good morning. Scoob Dog, good morning. Michael Jameson, good morning. I'm glad you're here. We have our selections of who we trust and who we don't. Yes. And I'm so glad, the goal isn't that we trust everybody. That's not the goal. The goal is actually, I don't want to say the goal, but a goal is, man, that I left a message to my darling about this yesterday evening. The goal is that we're so healed and we're so good that we can make decisions based on, it's like my nucleus. Okay, so let's go about it from this way. Concentric circles. Our nucleus is kind of our own internal experience. And then it's moving outward in terms of its impact and incorporating other people into our world, moving out. And I have a ponytail. We're moving outward from our own experience in terms of our inner world or inner life, and then moving out as each concentric circle grows to incorporate more people that's kind of in our hemisphere. Are we now able to make decisions based on trusting other people and loving other people and serving others because we're well enough that we can actually go outward? Y'all, if we're not well, we really cannot extend beyond our own internal life, because we're going to be living reactively, that people can't trust us and we cannot trust others because we have not healed our own past. Villa Christ, hello. Villa Chris, good to see you. Pop Biata, good morning. Gary, Percocet, I'm so glad you're here. It's good to see you. I feel like you're my new friend. Preston, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Joel, thank you so much for joining. I love that. Fran, good morning from South Africa. I'm glad you're here. Juan, thanks for joining. Joshua, so good. Scrolling. Joshua, let's go Norway. Let's go. English says, go for some fireworks tonight. Oh, so fun. You know, it's funny. I was supposed to be up in Boston today for the 250th anniversary, and I've got too much work to do. So I am going to pull an all-day work day, which I'm feeling excited for. Safina, good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Scorpio says, promise people don't address issues from their past and malfunction when they get triggered in the present. I love that you said malfunction. Isn't that so true? I really like to think of it as kind of like an internal operating system, and we're kind of working off of that. But yeah, being triggered from the past. So going back, Ghost Hunter, just to finish your question here, is the process of comparing the accruals of the past and events of the present the best lesson in preparing us for an unexpected and unknown future? The reality is that all that is unhealed from the past, we are effectively going to live in fear from that and then project it onto the future. Our body is wired to keep us safe. It's wired to keep us in this state of, we're wired for survival. So if we've got all these kind of like chains that we're bringing with us from the past, how can we not live in fear of the future? Because we're afraid that's going to happen again. It was so terrible. I'm actually not willing to go back and address it. I'm suppressing it, but it's still there. And it is subconsciously coloring my lens as I look ahead. So for us to really be able to be free, for us to be able to really be in peace, it warrants us to go back and do the work of the past to break free from it so that we have full freedom to run into the future. Percocet, happy 4th of July. John streams. It's funny. We started out this question about freedom of, are you willing to know the truth? It is easier. John streams, I just saw your comment. I choose peace. I stayed single. It's actually, you're right. That is a way to access peace. But is it simply because we're not in relationship that's triggering us to know the truth of what's going on inside of us in the first place? Are we actually as healthy as we think we are when we're alone? Being in relationship shows the full spectrum. And it doesn't have to be romantic relationship. It simply could be living in relationship with even a counselor or a coach, somebody who's going into the weeds and seeing behind the veil, like the wizard behind the screen. Like, are you actually letting somebody in to that extent so that we're able to have somebody else just know us and be able to reflect back to us what is already there to begin with? We love you, Jesus. Good morning, Jack Morton. Not yet. Hotspot Casino. Good morning. Hevmet. Good morning. I'm glad to see you, Brandon. 2025. Good morning, y'all. Thank you so much for joining. Gary, happy 4th of July from England. Yay! I'm so glad you're here. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm so grateful for you joining, and just remember, we have the choice to have peace, but it stems from the spirit of freedom, which comes from knowing the truth. And it is effectively starting the baseline of accessing peace comes from, am I willing to know the reality of what is? And that is the reality both of our experience and the reality of the capital T truth of the facts in and of themselves. And to be able to sit in both the emotion and the logic, it requires the cultivation of the human experience, our inner intelligences, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical. Have a wonderful day. Have a happy 4th.